So I made a mistake. I think what I meant to say before was Boo, the one that's from Ultraman 7, was also supposed to be Freeze Yeti. It turns out that I think that what they did was they recycled her into Jinx because they have the same cry basically, and they're obviously ice types. But the thing was, though, I think what they decided to do was because Boo's design was then scrapped, they then decided to wait until Gen 4, and then you had a Yeti that was out in the middle of the mountain somewhere. Hence, you know, like Abominable Snow and Chauvel, or what's its name, the one it evolves into. And they're Yetis too. So I think this would make a lot of sense because there are some Pokemon that were from Gen 1 and Gen 2's prototype that were eventually moved over to Gen 4, so this wouldn't be the first Pokemon they've done it with. And it wouldn't be the last one either. So I think that it makes a lot of sense because, you know, Freeze Yeti was supposed to be a Yeti that lived up in the mountains, didn't want anything to do. And I think if I remember correctly, that same Pokemon was actually called Boo as well. And like they did in Ultraman 7. So Freeze Yeti would have to have been, you know, it had to have been a coincidence, you know. They did the same thing in Ultraman 7, if I remember correctly. You know, Boo herself was kind of isolated from the rest of them, but then once they found her and all that, you know, they kind of just, she started kind of helping out a little bit here and there. From what I understand, I might be wrong, but I mean, I had to go back and watch Ultraman 7. Those were really interesting shows for their time. But it just really got my attention, though, because it's like, you know, you really think about all the things that they crafted and all these, you know, inspirations from like other series, because that's what Pokemon was always like, you know, inspired by other series doing something else. And there's so many ideas that they had scrapped that they never even used, as far as I'm aware, unless they reworked it into something else, you know. Like one of mine was like Bellringer from Sailor Moon, Luna, the black cat, or the purple cat. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was purple. Something like that. But it's interesting though, like you know, so Boo would have been from Ultraman 7, and then Ultraman 7's characters would have been from, you know, would have been rewritten into something in Pokemon. And I think this is also true because if I remember correctly, even the old man that traded you Jinx in Cerulean City in the prototype, he also traded you Boo as well. So Freeze Yeti would have been Jinx at one point. So I think that's not really too much of a coincidence. I think there's enough evidence to say that, you know, its cry kind of sounds the same, and it had to have been a beta Jinx. And so I think what they did was, yeah, I think they really did rework a lot of Pokemon. The ones that, because I'm noticing now, like, you know, if it wasn't a Pokemon that they just scrapped it and put it into another one due to cartridge limitations, like Gorochu is a good example. Gorochu, they took out the Pokemon and they replaced it with a little weaker evolution because I think they feel like Raichu was probably already good enough. And I don't know. I think maybe the reason they did that to Pikachu's line was because they didn't want Raichu to kind of look like, you know, they wanted Pikachu's because it's adorable. You know, it's supposed to be they wanted to keep the whole evolutionary line like one of the cutest and all that. So I think they did it for like publicity reasons and all that, because there are a lot of Pokemon fans that are Pikachu fans. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they did the same thing with like Jinx and you know, they kind of were careful with what they did, and they decided to move things around because they wanted to make it look like it was actually a lot easier to keep track of then. You know, Jinx is kind of, I always thought Jinx was kind of like a female Viking, sort of. It's also possible that, you know, she's supposed to be kind of like a Yeti, sort of, in a way. You definitely do see Jinx, and you know, because she's an ice type. You do find her out in the middle of like a mountain, for example. That's usually where you find them at. It's got to be like an ice mountain. Like, for example, you could only catch them, like, for example, in Gold and Silver, for example, in Crystal, you could only catch her in the ice cave that was on your way through where you would go to Blackthorn City, where you would get to the Dragon's Den, where you'd be able to fight, you know, Claire, and that's where Lance was originally born. Yeah, same Dragon Master Lance. It makes sense. Right. So you could catch Sneasel, you could catch was it Delivery Bird? Or no, Delibird? I gotta remember. but it's actually really interesting how they did all that. So yeah, hopefully that clarifies that mystery up a little bit. I'm still digging into some other stuff, so there'll be more videos. But again, you know, if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. What do you guys think? If you have any requests, let me know. And I hope everybody's doing well. So yeah, this channel's gonna keep uploading more content. So we're still looking for it, but I'm gonna keep looking for it too. So if you know something I don't, please let me know.